Welcome to the GAME.minder report.
After dark.
It's after dark.
When the sun goes down.
Brought to you this week by Square Shooters.
You shoot that square.
Shoot that dice, baby.
It's February the 13th, the day before Valentine's Day. Oh, yeah.
Getting
The report,
romantic here.
the report starts now.
The report starts now. Jimmy P is not traveling at 60 miles an hour for a change.
Yes. And only 60 miles and never faster.
Never faster, please. Come on.
No.
Who wouldn't do
Yes,
that?
we're in our homes,
We are.
but we are not moving,
Nope.
and it is nighttime.
It is night time. You'll notice on my video it's nice and dim. Oh yeah.
And you
Jimmy-
notice on mine, you'll see I'm using all the correct light bulbs, the FCGs or whatever they're called. I don't know.
CFLs.
Sure, I call them corkscrews.
Yeah. I tweet this about every 3 or 4 months. I say CFL bulbs are really great if you want to see something clearly in about 15 minutes.
Yeah,
Because they definitely need warm-up time.
but
And
it's
you know,
awesome
I
for
once
the
said to
bathroom.
somebody that, and they said, "Well, no, you probably just have an old one that, you need to replace." I'm like, "Okay, so what you're saying is I need to replace the bulb that I explicitly bought so that I wouldn't have to replace it very often." Seems a little contradictory. Anywho, so what's going on this week, Jimmy P? I know I've got a couple things I want to talk about.
Yeah, well, it seems that we're getting back into the cycle of games being released, and when that happens, a game usually has some sort of controversy that goes along with it.
Yes, the big name games. The two big name games we talked about last week, of course, were Dead Space 3
Mm.
and this Aliens, Colonial Marines.
Now it looks like that hasn't been opened.
No, this has not been opened. And let me tell you why this has not been opened. If
Why don't
you've
you
been
tell me
paying
why?
any sort of attention to the internet of games for the last 3 days, the embargo came up on this game right before the release, and it is almost universally awful by just about every. We're going to actually put a bunch of links to a bunch of different reviews in the show notes, but almost everybody hates this game, and the two people who don't hate it are being accused of being paid off to say that they didn't hate it.
Now, why don't you
So,
explain to our lovely listeners what you mean by the embargo?
right, okay. So an embargo, when you're talking about game reviews, a lot of game reviews, in order to sort of maintain their message, to sort of keep things um, under wraps, what they do is they basically send out versions of the games to reviewers with an embargo date, which basically says you cannot publish your review until this day. That way, everybody publishes the reviews at the same time, and nobody sort of gets a jump on everybody else with the first opinion. It is not a new thing,
Nope.
but a lot of people. The reason why embargoes happen typically for games is because a game, unlike a movie, is not the kind of thing where like you can see it and be done with it in a couple of hours. A lot of games, like, you want to be able to sit with it for like a week, you want to play it, you want to maybe play it again, you want to sort of really get to know it before you write a review about it. Whereas a movie, it's like you watch it, you either liked it or you didn't, you write a review, whatever. So as a result, embargoes tend to be a pretty important thing in the game industry. And one of the other reasons why is sort of just related to this idea of getting coverage. So like a site that doesn't follow the embargoes is not going to get the early preview game the next time around because they will have burned the publisher by not following the embargo. So it's sort of in these sites that start to get big, it's in their best interest to follow the embargo so that they can maintain the sort of virtuous cycle where it's like we paid attention to the embargo, so therefore we're going to get an early game for the next review, and then the cycle repeats.
And normally with an embargo, isn't it like almost like a hint that maybe the game isn't as good as it should have been or could be? So it's almost like a not a foreshadowing, but you already are getting a bad taste in your mouth. Yes, you're already being censored, and
Right.
any journalist. I mean, even me being a podcaster, the lowest of the low next to a blogger probably in the journalistic world. However, we still are considered media and journalists. If
Right.
someone said, you know, you can only podcast at 8:30 to 9:30 at night because of whatever, well, no, First Amendment, blah 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 blah. I mean, but we have that right, and so
Well,
anyway.
but again, I think a lot of this has to it doesn't have anything to do with rights. You know, if somebody sends them a a preview game and they sign a contract of some sort that says we won't publish a thing and they do, then they can be in breach of contract. Now, I don't actually know that these actually come to the point of a written contract, but it like I said, it's just kind of sort of the way it's understood. This is how things are done in this industry. And I will say this, yes, I agree with you that it in some cases it can be this is showing that the game is not going to be good. But on the other hand, it could also go the other way. You know, a lot of the idea is like I guarantee you BioShock Infinite is going to be embargoed, whether it's good or bad. You know, any big game like this is going to do the embargo because they want to control the message as much as they can. Now, obviously, as soon as you start implying that sites are actually being paid to review something well, that is when you're out of the realm of just the pure embargo and into the realm of like buying reviews. And
Well,
which
then why
leads
not?
into the next piece of this, which is that, you know, aside from the threes and the fours and the twos out of 10 that this game has been getting, there are a couple of notable 9 out of 10s. And we'll link to one of those. And if you read the comments, everyone's like, you know, you clearly either didn't play this game or you were told what to say about it because what you're saying doesn't jibe with what everybody else is saying.
Well, I okay. Now that's another point. I'm sort of backtracking to the original point here or topic. I don't understand. Like for instance, usually uh, arc-based drama TV shows do not send the screeners of their last two episodes of the season because those two episodes carry spoilers.
Okay.
So they usually tell reviewers in like entertainment that they just have to review it after watching it like everyone else. So then why not just not even have an embargo and just not give your game out or give the game out and have it delivered the day of release?
Well, because it's in their best interest to have a bunch of in-depth reviews on the web on the day of release.
Mm, I see that, but if you're but back to the whole like okay, you're putting the embargo in, you're already putting a bad taste in people's mouth. They're already going to be sullen when they're reading it, so it's not going to be. It's just I'm just trying to give them maybe a solution to a problem that doesn't need a solution, basically.
Right. Well, I will tell you this. I mean, some of this also we're thinking about it right now in terms of the AAA games. But this phenomena also can either benefit or hurt the smaller indie game as well because you know, when you're trying to craft the story, and I mean not the story of your game, but like the story of how you made your game and you want a site to cover you, a lot of times, you know, people hear buzz about the game that you're doing and they'll want to interview you, but you as the indie developer don't necessarily want that to be published until people can actually give you money for your game. And so it's sort of a double-edged sword. You know, like as an indie, I might say, I'd love to give you this exclusive interview. I'll give you the whole backstory of how we made my game, but I would really appreciate it if you wouldn't publish it until the day I launch. That way, you know, that can hopefully lead back to some greater sales. And I know that, you know, when I went to Indiecade, there was a whole panel about this, of like how you can control your media message and your marketing and all the rest of it. And it was all set up around this idea of trying to be friendly with the media, whether they're going to like you or not, but try to be friendly with them in such a way that they will give you the kind of coverage at the time you need it that you want. And this is just a bigger version of that, you know, in the sort of AAA gaming space.
Well, you can't unring the bell. It's
Yes,
already.
and speaking of unringing, I'm trying to unring this bell. I'm hoping to send this back to Amazon. I am not opening it. Look, sealed, signed,
I
sealed,
see.
delivered. Not
Well,
gonna open it.
you're a Prime member, so that should be pretty easy, right? I
Should be
mean,
pretty easy.
Amazon's good with that anyway, but
Yeah. I mean, of course, what's lost in all of this is that unfortunately, this is a game that really deserved to be really good, and it's not gonna be, and that is annoying
by the way,
because
is your basement turning into a an old timey like wooden pirate ship?
an old timey wooden pirate ship.
Yeah, because your computer is going back and
Oh
forth.
yeah, well that's why I record my video on this thing. It's on a tripod, not so that it's
Oh,
Because
okay.
I wasn't. There's no way I'm going to be able to sit still with this thing on my lap.
Okay, so the video I'm seeing is not the video that the world is seeing.
No.
Whoa, dude, I
Whoa.
just blew my mind. All right, what else you got today?
All right, what else we got today? Well, along these same lines, actually, because I
Oh
just watched
yeah,
Adam Sessler's review of Colonial Marines, which agreed with the general consensus, is that he actually called out G4 this week because again, I don't know if you know, G4 TV officially finished their sort of rebranding this week as the Esquire channel,
yes, with
and
all
so
the pillows and skinny jeans.
yeah, and so Adam Sessler actually called them out on Twitter and said, now that they've finished this transition, maybe they'll finally grow a pair and tell me why I was fired. Um, I'm not holding out hope that they will, but I do think it's good. I mean, I know some people like Sessler, some people don't like him. I've always liked him. I watched X Play back when it was extended play, and I think that he's got a really good sensibility when it comes to games. I'm glad to see that he's moved on to Revision 3 and is doing some interesting things. It'll be interesting to see if anyone actually responds to his tweet there.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I'm guessing probably not.
They're
All right.
probably go on.
Okay, I was gonna say we got a couple of actually, before we do that, let's talk about our sponsor this week.
Let
The Game.minder report this week is brought to you by Square Shooters. Square Shooters is basically an iOS game based on an actual real game that has it's cards on dice. Cards on dice. How cool is that? You've got a full deck of cards and two jokers on 9 dice, and you sort of roll the dice. You try to match poker hands. It's a free app, and you should go get it. It's a lot of fun.
and where can you get that app?
You can get that at just do the well. There'll be a link in the show notes, or you just do an app store search for Square Shooters, 2 words. All
Ah,
right. So
thank
thank
you.
you, Square Shooters, for taking care of the Game.minder report this week. All right. So speaking of upcoming games, we just finished talking about a game that did come out, but let's talk about a couple of upcoming games because there's a couple news items this week that were kind of important. First off, The Last of Us has been delayed.
Yeah, and this is the one placed non. Well, I mean, I think it's still considered AAA, but non or a new IP
Yeah.
game that's coming out for that's PlayStation 3 exclusive that people have just been talking about. And other than Rain, which is another new intellectual property for I believe just PlayStation 3 only, The Last of Us has been on the radar, and it's supposed to push the PS3 to its limits. The I guess the final limits as it's in
Yeah.
its
Yeah.
sunsetting.
Yeah. We're a week away from the big announcement.
Mhm. But yeah, it's how long has it been pushed back to?
It has been pushed back to June 18th, it
And
looks like.
it was supposed to be a March 2013, correct?
I believe that's right.
Yeah.
And so it's been
Um,
pushed back by about it says about 6 weeks later. It was okay. It was originally going to be May 7th, and it's been pushed about 6 weeks.
it's not too bad. I
It's
mean,
not it's not horrible, but what's interesting to me about this story was the way the information leaked because we at GameMinder are always constantly. This is one of the reasons why we started GameMinder was to try and sort of tame this wild west of release date information. We're still working on it. It's a work in progress, but this leaked out because basically a bunch of people got an email from Best Buy saying that their pre-order had been delayed, and for about 24 hours nobody really knew what was going on. Like the Best Buy was saying it was coming out on June 18th. Amazon still said May 7th. A couple other major retailers didn't really know. They put it up as TBA, and then the actual publisher was not responding to comment. They were not responding to emails, and so for about a day or two, no one really knew what the story was, and now it has finally been confirmed. And so my question has to be, how did Best Buy get the line on that? Speaking of embargoes, like were they told and then they were told they weren't allowed to mention that it was going to be delayed for a while and they just broke the rule? Or how did they figure that out? I don't know.
well, I have two kind of theories about this. One is it probably went like something like this, where a high level person talked to another high level person about, hey, it's supposed to, this is going to be delayed till here, just to let you know, don't ship or don't do that or don't expect it, change your inventory or make the proper changes. What happened is that like a place like Best Buy, it's so big that by the time it got to the web administrator that was supposed to change it, he was probably just like, all right, and then an
Yeah.
automatic thing went out. Conversely, it's the same thing how if a small mom and pop gets the scoop or gets the news on something like an email that says don't say anything, but they
Right.
just check their website because it's still like it's made on Angel Fire. Uh, and they,
GeoCities.
yeah. The funny thing is, gamers are so passionate that they are like investigative reporters on this stuff. Well, they'll go in source codes and they'll be like, there's an anomaly here with the date. There must be something wrong. It's like,
Yeah.
whoa, it's nuts.
Well,
And
we want our games, man.
I know, but and it's kind of fun. Like I actually I actually was just thinking about this. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to spend as much time in the gaming and the date finding investigative as I used to be. But there is a not a culture, but it's definitely seedy underground of the gaming world. It's it's something to like when you look back at it, you're like, wow, like there's some stuff where you're on message boards and
Mhm.
you're looking at screenshots of something that's been deleted, but it's the internet, so it's never deleted. I don't know. I can go on for the I can write a book of my time trying to find the correct game date.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and again, this is the big problem that we're trying to solve
Mhm.
with GameMinder. And like I said, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. If we can build the gold standard for this information, I think we'll really have something there. So
Yeah.
another game that was announced this week is the next Batman Arkham game, which I played Arkham Asylum. I did
Yes.
not play Arkham City.
No.
I believe this is going to end up going into GameMinder as Batman Arkham 3 Untitled, because one of the interesting things about this, again from the rumor point of view, was that it came from someone discovering, as you say, these gamers searching things out, about 15 domain registrations that all were around this. And so some of them we got ArkhamUniverse.com, BatmanArkhamUniverse.com, Batman Arkham Rises, Batman Begins, Batman Dark Knight, Batman
Well, back to
Arkham Knight, Batman Arkham Legend, Arkham Legends, Arkham
stuff.
Knight, Arkham Origins, Arkham Stories. Like, so there was just a ton of them. So we don't actually even know how to list it yet, but it has been confirmed by Warner Games that this game is in fact in development. So just look for Arkham in GameMinder if you're looking for it, and that's how you'll find it.
Interesting that they did Universe because maybe there's two different games. Universe is usually say for like the MMO type uh, game versus then a standalone or rail like game on rails type game.
Yeah, well, and they started with the Asylum, then the Asylum grew and became the city, and so I think maybe it's just one of those progressions. Like, okay,
What about state? What about country?
Batman Arkham Planet. I don't know. But they've also got legends and origins and stories and all these other kinds of things in there. So, who knows which one's going to end up actually being, but still pretty interesting. All right. So we've got what other. Look down that list and tell me what else you want to talk about, Jim. I got to look something up real quick.
Oh well, about games that are coming out or
What else have I got in that show notes list?
oh we talked about that. Some more Sessler, Last of Us delayed. Nancy Pelosi defends video games on Fox News Sunday.
Oh yeah, that was a good one. I was pretty psyched about that actually, because you know I'm so used to politicians letting us down with this stuff that they just sort of they go for the path of least resistance and they say, "Oh, it must be video games," but she actually was smart and she actually said, "No, probably not. Why don't
Yeah.
you get your head out of your bum?"
I mean, it's basically the quickest thing. If there wasn't video game, we talked about this. Before it was video games, it was music. Before it was music, it was movies. Before it was movies, it was TV. Before it was TV, it was books, and then the radio, and then smoke signals that were risque. It was just caveman drawings.
Yeah,
Caveman drawings actually were pretty freaking violent. They were showing buffaloes being killed all the time. That was every caveman drawing.
it was. All right. You know what? I think we're running out of time, and I should have paid more attention to that before diving into this, but I didn't. So let's just talk real quick about what's coming out this week, because there is a pretty big one coming out this week,
All right.
and that is, of course, Crisis 3.
Mhm.
Now, I am not a Crisis guy. Are you a Crisis guy?
No, I like to make the joke, like, but can it run on? But will it run Crisis?
Yeah, exactly. And so I'm not going to play this. So now you're not going to call me out like you did last week and be like, you're not really going to play that if I try and pretend like I'm going to. I'm just flat out not going to play this game.
Well, you proved me that you're not going to play it.
Going to return it.
Yeah, so you're not gonna play it. So I was
Yeah, but I
right.
did pre-order it.
Still, you weren't gonna play it.
Whatever. I think we've also got Metal Gear Rising Revengeance, which is, I guess, a word. Um, those look like the only two big ones coming out this week, unless you've heard of any. No?
No,
All right. Did you pick a game of the week this week?
I did.
Tell me.
The game I picked was Blaz Blue Chrono Phantasma.
Whoa.
Yeah,
Mind
it's a
blown.
Japanese only game. It's for the PlayStation 3. There's actually been there's Blaz Blue is a or Blaze Blue or whatever is actually like a series, a universe if you will, and it's just we're talking about made up words. So Chrono Phantasma.
Chrono Phantasma. Yeah, that's what it says.
Yeah, you play that in Words with Friends.
Right on. I am going to be following Stargate SG-1 Unleashed.
Jeremy, why would you pick that game?
Well, it's funny. There
Yep.
was supposed to be a Stargate MMO years and years and years ago, and it, in fact, I think even got to the point of a prototype, if I'm not mistaken, and then they lost their funding and they pulled the plug. But yes, clearly I am a huge geek. Just last week I finished watching through Star Trek Voyager again, and now I'm watching through Star Trek Enterprise. Yes, I really am watching Star Trek Enterprise. Mainly just because I already rewatched all of Stargate over the summer. So I'm gonna probably this is actually pretty cool. It's a tablet game. And it's gonna be, at least as I understand it, it's gonna be kind of like how they're doing The Walking Dead with the sort of chapters and little
Mhm.
chunks of game that you can play in like little discrete pieces. So that is interesting to me. And so obviously it's an IP I like. It's on a platform I use regularly. I think this one is going to be a big win for me if they don't screw it up, which I'm hoping they don't.
Okay.
All right, I think that is going to do it for the Game.minder report this week. So if you enjoy what we do, why not subscribe by hitting the button right there that you see at the bottom of the screen if you're watching on YouTube, or from the subscribe now button on GameMinderReport.com.
And to view the show notes for this episode or to follow any of the games mentioned today, don't forget to visit GameMinderReport.com/37.
And don't forget to follow GameMinder on Twitter or Facebook, or get the app for your iPhone or Android phone.
And finally, don't forget to buy all your games through the website or app. Every game you pre-order or purchase helps support this show and this service.
And stop. I forgot the most important thing that I needed to mention this week.
What?
That is GGGMMXXX.
Okay.
What the heck is Jeremy talking about? Go to gmexpo.com. GMEXPO.com. That's right. We're doing an expo right here in Cleveland at the Launch House. I meant to talk a lot more about it, but I forgot to put it in the show notes. And as you know, Jim, if it's not in the show notes, I'm not going to read it.
Yeah.
Just like if it is in the show notes, you are going to read it. And we don't have time to go into it. So check out gmexpo.com.
That should just be the show notes for next week.
There's going to be actually a lot of good information next week. This week is just sort of like a teaser. Like, go check it out. There's more information coming. Next week, we'll sort of break it all down for you. So anyhow, signing up for the Game Minder Report, I'm Jeremy.
And I'm Jim reminding you,
Don't forget to play.